past week as the New York Knicks have hired Mike Brown as their next head coach to replace Tom Thibodeau. And I, for one, as a Sacramento Kings fan, am very happy for Mike Brown. He should have never been fired from Sacramento. And so to see him not only get rehired by another team right away in the following offseason, but to also see him become the head coach of a real contender, at least coming out of the Eastern Conference, I am so happy for Mike Brown. But Kevin, I'm going to toss this to you first as my fellow Sacramento Kings fan on the panel, and then we'll hear from Boston. What are your thoughts on the Knicks hiring Mike Brown, Kevin?
So this is the second time he will be employed by also getting paid by another team. So that's a crazy stat. He's just sitting back and making the money. And I'm a big.
Has he ever coached the Knicks before? My fault, Kevin.
No, he's never coached the Knicks before. I'm a big Mike Brown fan as a Kings fan. But seeing what he did before the Kings, going from Tom Thibodeau to Mike Brown is a slap in the face to Tom Thibodeau. This man just took it to the ECF. A lot of Mike Brown's success was with LeBron James, with Kobe Bryant. I don't think the Knicks have a Kobe or LeBron. They did add Jordan Clarkson.
They got Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, no. So now they have some depth, some bench depth. Excuse me. They got the guy from France that dunked on Braun. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. But I feel like they should have gave Tom Thibodeau another go around. You changed the whole team in perspective the day before the season started. Getting rid of Dante, getting rid of Julius Randle. Julius Randle wasn't even a part of that playoff run last year, and you came a game 7 away from the ECF. So I would have preferred them run it back. But I'm focusing on Mike Brown. He's a good guy to run this team. He's an offensive-minded coach. We saw him, running up and down the court for the Kings sprint. He's very emotional, and he's going to make sure that they get the job done. It is a win, or it's a win. It's NBA Finals or bust. If everyone's healthy going into next year, I think, if they don't make it, he gets some kind of leeway. But if he is not winning, if he's not even in the NBA championship next year, he might get fired again because they're in a win now moment. The East is down. Tyrese Halliburton is down. Jason Tatum is down. Everyone's going all in this season. You see the Hawks making their moves we'll talk about later. The Magic making their moves. Everyone's going all in now because the East has never been more open than what it is now. So for maybe, changing the culture, using more of their bench, we'll see what they can do. I really hope this works out for Mike Brown. The way it's gone since Tyrese Halliburton left, once you leave the Kings, you really flourish in life. So, maybe next year in the NBA Finals, I'll be rooting against them just because I don't want to have the narrative on my head that we had an NBA Finals coach on our bench and we just let him walk. So, Mike Brown, I wish nothing but the best for you. Hopefully, you can get some more depth pieces, maybe move a Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby. I know they really regret trading 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. But the Knicks got a lot of good things going on. Like I said, first time in 25 years going to the ECF. Unfortunately, they just ran into Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. But like I said, they won't be in the way next year. They got over the NBA championship Boston Celtics fully healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see.
That's a really interesting take, Kevin, regarding next year being boom or bust for them, because what I was going to ask Jaevon is, as a Celtics fan, just like the Pacers know, that you're basically punting on next season. And so I was going to ask Jaevon, before you said that, Kevin, I was going to ask him whether if he's worried about Mike Brown for years to come or if it's just for a year or two. So you kind of laid it out there. But I will say 2 things in response to what you had to say, Kevin. Number one, I think the name you were looking for is Gershon Yabusele. I don't know if I got the last part of his last name right.
His name.
He used to be on the 76ers, correct?
Yes, last year, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But he's known for LeBron. That's why I said that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's Gershon. I remember his name just because I had him on my fantasy team at points last season. And the other thing I was going to say is he may not have been an NBA championship winning head coach, but Mike Brown did stack some rings as an assistant coach, and he also was the head coach of the Cavs that year that Braun. I believe so, because he had
Spurs.
Yeah, so the 3 with Golden State, and was he there in '99 with the Spurs? I know for sure he was there in '03. and then obviously he lost to the Spurs in 07. I think he might have 4. I'm going to say 03 and then the 3 with the Warriors. But anyways, Jaevon, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. 4? Okay, thank you. And so what are your thoughts on the Knicks hiring Mike Brown, Jaevon? Because the Celtics obviously aren't going to be contending this upcoming season, as we've seen the fire sale. As you've been saying in our group chat, your team's making moves, unlike the Golden State Warriors, who have yet to make a single move. And so are you worried about Mike Brown being the head coach of the Knicks in the long run? Or even if he is, how do you feel about that as a Celtics fan?
I think Mike Brown's one of the top coaches in the NBA. I mean, he not too long ago, he was literally named Coach of the Year. This was, 2 years ago? This was when the world made sense, as some Kings fans might say. They were in the playoffs. De'Aaron Fox was Clutch Player of the Year. De'Aaron was dropping however much, 40. Vivek won Executive of the Year. Or was it, it was
Monty McNair.
Monty McNair. And then, you guys basically swept the NBA awards, minus like scoring title, MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year. But I mean, guys had a lot of guys winning awards. And then, a couple of guys get injured. They go on a skid. Vivek panics and fires Mike Brown, which was insane. It was kind of like a bombshell. Kevin was like, well, time to blow it up, guys.
Next thing let's get Zach LaVine. Let's contend.
Let's continue. DeMar DeRozan.
Number 2 overall pick if we took one of those fucking Hawks picks.
There we go.
Dylan Harper should be in Sacramento.
And that's how usually the Kings are going to have to build out their rosters, through the draft, not through free agency. And, I mean, as far as the Knicks go, I mean, the Knicks, they're a well-oiled machine now. Just went to the Eastern Conference Finals. You got Jalen Brunson. You got Karl-Anthony Towns. Mikal Bridges. I don't know if you guys saw this Twitter post. This guy took a picture of Mike Brown, and then he asked him, he's like, so we getting Giannis or we getting LeBron? And then Mike Brown goes, I'm not trading my wings. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I think the way that the roster is currently constructed, they're kind of just ready to win now. And that's kind of what, is going to help on the Knicks' favor, because as Kevin already mentioned, it's the East is down, so it's wide open. You got teams like Halliburton, who just made the finals, and the Pacers. He's out for the year. Jason Tatum obviously out for the rest of the year. The Bucks missing Damian Lillard, who ultimately ended up getting waived. But they got Miles Turner though. But there's a couple of teams like the Knicks feel like they can do it. The Magic feel like they can get in there and make some moves. The Cavs obviously were the number 1 seed last year. Kind of fell apart at the end. The Hawks are another team. Yes, Kevin mentioned. The Sixers are one of those teams. They're like, hey, if Joel Embiid's healthy, we got an all-world type of player. And if Paul George is healthy, if he comes back to form, we got Tyrese Maxey, and we got all these guys. We got the number 3 pick, BJ Edgecombe, who's had 28 in the summer league. He's coming out. So Sixers fans, Philly fans, they believe that this could be their year. Process is done. So there's just there's a couple of teams out there that feel like it's a wide open, it's fair game for anybody. And, the Knicks are just trying to find their coach in Mike Brown, who I believe is a really good coach. But like Kevin already mentioned, they just went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they had Tom Thibodeau. And I get it. The way that his coaching style kind of wears you out a little bit. And it's like, okay, but year before, if you look at it, like a couple of years, they make the playoffs, they lose, get to the second round, Brunson breaks his hand. I think a bunch of us thought that, hey, if that doesn't happen, Brunson was on a historical run in that playoff season a year ago. Well, 2 years ago now, as Kevin would like to say. And if that wouldn't happen, they probably could have made the Eastern Conference Finals. But then they actually get to the Eastern Conference, beat the Boston Celtics, and they just they run out of gas a little bit. And I think now the Knicks just need a little bit of fine tuning, and I think Mike Brown's going to be able to provide that. And a lot of Kings fans are kind of just like, damn, shaking their head, because they know the Knicks just got better and how good of a coach he actually is. And I feel like Dolan is, I feel like, another one of those owners that's kind of like, hey, he's up there. He kind of had a stretch where it was just, where they just weren't winning after those mellow years. It kind of looked ugly after, and it was just, the Tingus Pingus Phil Jackson, those years. So now that they have, guys like Brunson and Cat in the mix, they're able to, you see how crazy these Knicks fans are when they're winning. So congrats on the hire. I think all of us want to see Mike Brown do well because we know how good of a coach he actually is. So Kevin
I do
Jenkins
not want him to do well
because he knows that should be the coach of the Sacramento Kings right now.
You're damn right. You leave the Kings, you should not be able to do better in life. You should do worse.
That would be crazy, though, for, Tyrese Halliburton to make the finals. And if the Knicks make the finals, the Kings are just always figuring out a way to make headlines in June.
Where it's the Knicks? Imagine a world where it's the Knicks versus the Spurs.
That actually seems pretty likely to.
De'Aaron Fox, Mike Brown, just Kings players all over the finals.
Can you imagine the close-ups when they're always covering their mouth and they're just laughing? They're talking so much shit about the Kings like this. They're just like this. Yeah,
those fuckers.
Yeah, sure is glad that we got out of Sacramento.
Who would have thought it? Look at us. Who would have thought about this?
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
Me.
It'll certainly be a tougher path for the Spurs to get out of the Western Conference and get to the finals next year than it would be for the Knicks, because you look at the Eastern Conference right now, and given everything Toddy just mentioned, where Jason Tatum's out for the year, Celtics, you can consider them not contenders. Pacers are out for the year. The Pacers, we're going to talk about free agency next, but the Pacers are going to be without arguably two of their three best players next season, where, Siakam will still be there, but Tyrese Halliburton is confirmed out for next season, and Miles Turner just decided to go to their rival in the Milwaukee Bucks to build his Legos. And so the Pacers are out of it. They won't be contenders next year. And you look at the Eastern Conference, the Cavs will be there, but are the Cavs going to do what the Cavs like to do and have a great regular season and then choke in the playoffs? Because unless LeBron James is walking through that door, I'm not counting the Cavs as real deal contenders in the playoffs, because since LeBron has been there, the Cavs have not had a sustainable run throughout the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell's great. Darius Garland's great. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, but they always seem to fall short. So it really seems like it's the Knicks versus the field, in my opinion, when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Once they get to the finals, if they get there, they're going to face a juggernaut coming from the West. And so an NBA championship isn't guaranteed for the Knicks next season. But I can confidently say right now, and I understand all the similarities between Mike Brown and Tom Thibodeau, both being defensive-minded head coach. But the thing about Mike Brown that's different than Tom Thibodeau is Mike Brown knows how to use other players in his rotation. The one thing about his rotation, though, that a bunch of Kings fans absolutely hated, primarily as it comes to my close personal friend from Cabo, Keon Ellis, is that Keon Ellis somehow got on Mike Brown's shit list. And so no matter what Keon Ellis did, he could never get fully in the rotation, because when Mike Brown gave him a chance to get in the rotation, he did something that Mike Brown didn't like, and then he got sent off to Siberia. And so I saw a tweet recently that just made me laugh when it came to Mike Brown and the hiring by the Knicks. Is someone said, I can't wait to see Karl Anthony Towns have a turnover with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, and then he gets benched for the rest of the game, because that's how Mike Brown operates. And so I think this is a great hiring for the Knicks. I'm ready to come out and say right now, the Knicks are going to be the 2026 Eastern Conference champions. I can't tell you that they're going to end up winning the finals, but the Knicks are going to get to the finals with Mike Brown as their head coach and the nucleus that they have intact, because they already made it to the Eastern Conference Finals this past year. Yeah, Jaevon, I'm planting the flag. But they already made it to the Eastern Conference Finals this past year. As Kevin was saying, first time in 25 years. I was surprised that they let go of Tom Thibodeau, but James Dolan is one of those owners, just like a Vivek Ranadive, where they can't keep their hand out of the cookie jar, and so they always feel like they need to make these moves. But is it finals or bust for the Knicks next season, I feel like it's closer to being finals or bust than it is for them to just get to the playoffs or get a top 4 seed. And so I'm confident that Mike Brown can take them there, because if anyone can do it, it's Mike Brown. Mike Brown took a team that had not made the playoffs in 17 years, had not had a winning season in 17 years, and he led them to back-to-back winning seasons. And who knows what would have happened if they let him finish out the 13-18 season that the Kings got off to a start with. I guess we'll never know. But the last thing I'll say about this is I just absolutely love the contrast on this podcast and think it's hilarious just between Kevin and I, both being Kings fans, because Kevin on one side is like, you're not on the Kings, I want you to fail. Versus I'm like, you're not on the Kings, I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Like, I'm rooting for De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, Mike Brown, so on. You know, and I'll give my final thought with this. This past weekend, actually on 4th of July, my girlfriend and I, we went up to Sacramento, got to go to a A's Giants game to celebrate 4th of July. But before we went there, we went to the Folsom Outlets just to check out all the various sales that they were having. And at a lid store, they had a De'Aaron Fox jersey on sale for $35. And I was like, $35? What? And then they had an additional discount on top of that where it was like 20% off. And so then I ended up getting a De'Aaron Fox jersey, brand new, for $25. And Allie, she was all over me where she's like, you have too many jerseys. Why are you buying another? And I'm like, because it's $25 and I love De'Aaron Fox. And anyways, point being.
Was it a Spurs jersey?
No, it was Kings jersey. It was a Kings jersey. That is one thing I will not do. I will not buy a Spurs De'Aaron Fox jersey. I will not buy a Tyrese Halliburton Indiana Pacers jersey. But if there's something on super duper sale and it represents the Sacramento Kings, then hey, you know, I'm gonna continue to support my guys even when they're not in a Sacramento Kings uniform. Even players that have never worn a Sacramento Kings uniform, like future Eastern Conference champion Jalen Brunson. So that's that. Time to move on. I'm done showing all my selfies with random athletes. All right, guys.